What is better for the environment? Plants or animals? Let's just debunk that right now. It's too nice outside, so I had to get outside for this video. There is research that you can find if you look into this. There's also just some common sense, okay? There's also research that might point to something else, or might be something anecdotal, or might be something about understanding farming that can help answer this question that isn't done within a confined study. And so therefore it doesn't get cited as research. And that's, of course, part of the problem. But as with anything, you have to use a combination of factors and variables and ideas to come to do the truth. Einstein didn't come up with E equals MC squared because somebody wrote a paper for him. And, fill in the invention of penicillin, which was an accident, or like just the countless other things, okay? You don't find truth by reading research papers. You find signals of where you should maybe look and questions to ask and experiments to perform. And I don't want to get into that today, but that's topic for another day, problem with research, etc. The question is, do eating animals or plants contribute a positive or negative benefit to the environment? What is better for the environment? What is better for sustainability? I'm not going to cite anything because this is going to be off the top of my head. Maybe I'll add some links after, but there's a couple things here. There is a study that I need to try to find. It compares the amount of animals that are used to grow, let's say, like a cornfield. And then it compares that to something like maybe ruminant, regeneratively raised ruminant animals, grass-fed beef, for example. So you can actually grow regenerative grass-fed beef in a way that actually replenishes topsoil and has a net carbon positive footprint for the planet. That is just awesome. You should do that. If you're eating plants that are done in any kind of monocrop or situation, that's not happening. There's no such thing as regenerative monocropping. There might be a way. I think there's a way. Like you could watch movies like Big Little Farm, where there's a way where you could do a regenerative farm that can include animals and plants and certain maybe fruit trees and vegetables or whatever, right? There's a way to do that. But that's not the bulk of the food that people are eating. These are small isolated, these are small regeneratively done, a lot of times family farms that are just feeding their family or whatever. And so like the Big Little Farm example, they do sell fruits and vegetables, but they also sell animal products. And so you have to have animals as a part of that system. You cannot not do it without animals, but whether or not you could do it in a way where the vegetables or the plants are a positive carbon footprint, whether you can do that or not, I'm not sure. I think within a regenerative model, you can do that. I think that's kind of what they're trying to show in the Big Little Farm example. More research is needed, but my gut instinct tells me that it's probably close to neutral or even a slight negative, just because growing plants in a way where you can harvest them and harvest enough of them to make money is very contrary to nature. Nature doesn't want to just be packed into rows and grown a certain amount and then like sold off. Like it just doesn't really want that to happen. So I think there's definitely a threshold where if like you're feeding your family and you have a small garden like we have here and you're cycling in animal products and things like that, like, yeah, I think that could be a regenerative model where you could be growing certain plants and berries and herbs and things like that, and it could all be a positive. I do think that. But I think at a certain scale, you probably butt up to that being impossible. So getting back to the idea that right now people think that plants are better for the environment while they're eating like majority plant-based diet. They're buying hybridized fruit. They're buying mass-produced things like almond milk and oat milk and all these things. So this research paper that I've read, I don't remember the title. I'll have to try to find it. It compared eating straight animals, like where you would eat maybe say grass-fed beef, to eating plants. And then whether pound for pound, more or less animals are used, or it's better for animals, basically. It was kind of more of an animal comparison versus a carbon comparison. The paper figured out, through a bunch of math, I assume, that more animals die per pound of plants, right? Which I assume is in like kind of a monocrop. So corn, soy, wheat, maybe rice, maybe rice a little bit different because they do like rice patties. I don't know. But let's just say like the common American mass produce things, especially the things that you see on big fields, more animals die to produce a pound of that food than do for something like grass-fed beef or chicken or fish or whatever. The reason for this is very easy to understand. When you plow land and you till it up, which is what a lot of these mass farms do, you kill the soil, you kill countless insects and microorganisms, you kill habitats for birds and other insects, okay? You also kill field mice, gophers, snakes, frogs, and a bunch of other small animals that nobody really pays attention to, right? Because we're not seeing it. We're just seeing the plant. We're not seeing what goes into actually producing that plant. Then plants also strip mine the earth of nutrients, and that's another factor. And then there's chemical runoff and waste, and then you have things like flooding. And so the soils become depleted. They don't retain water. You can get things like flash floods and flooding and other things like that because the soils are so depleted, so stripped of nutrients, they're not aerated. There's a lot of problems with growing plants on that mass scale. So pound for pound, this is just kind of a heuristic you can use. Pound for pound, any of those mass-produced plant foods, which make up like 99% of the plant, the plant-based standard American diet, more animals die to produce that food while also strip mining the earth of nutrients than just having something like grass-fed beef. And I bet you that we don't even understand how bad of a comparison is. Like grass-fed beef is probably 10 times better for the environment and for the other animals and the other things and for the soil, etc. I don't think we can even fathom how much worse mass-produced plants are, right? Which is, again, support small, try to buy things local in season. You don't need to buy from the big companies. You can buy from small local companies that usually aren't doing the mass tilling and things like that. And try to support regenerative agriculture, which is going to be becoming more of a thing. More regenerative agriculture will replenish soil, will reduce these things, will bring in beneficial insects and birds and other animals and stuff. And even a lot of farmers are doing no-till gardening now, which can help that as well. The answer, though, in my mind, is pretty much solved. Plants are not better for the environment. In some cases, they might be about the same as animals. And in some cases, for some animals, depending on how they're raised, they might be like slightly better. But in a lot of cases, especially the mass-produced monocrop stuff that's just bad all around, it's orders of magnitude worse for the environment and, of course, for your health, right? Which is why you're here. If you're watching this video, you get that. So that's my answer to that question. And beautiful day out here. Make sure to get your vitamin D, get outside. Detached from the news. I've been sucked into it a little bit too much myself. I'm sure you've seen some recent videos. I feel like it's my civic duty to speak up on these things, but I am going to get back to regularly scheduled content. So, I appreciate you bearing with me on that if you're here just for that. But there are some of these ideas that I think we should all be aware of because it does affect us. If you live in the United States, stuff's crazy right now. So, be aware, fight back bad ideas, stand up for yourself. Don't be afraid to speak up. That's what we need to do.